2 of this set coming up next. By Budweiser, designated driver, and enjoy the great times. Ford, manufacturers of America's best-selling brand. Check out our best-selling lineup at your local Ford store or online at localfordstores.com. And by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. Cubs baseball in high definition on WGN TV is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. Let's get the Mets lineup written out by their manager, Terry Collins. Matt Den Decker has been filling in center. Juan Lagares is on the DL. Daniel Murphy is at second. David Wright at third batting. Third, Curtis Granderson. Big night last night. He's in left. 40-year-old Bobby Abreu is in right. Elaine, you don't know the first thing about first base, but it's Lucas Duda playing there tonight. Anthony Recker's a catcher. Ruben Tejada and Daisuke Matsuzaka rounded out. Had to drop that.
They gotta drop
Hernandez
that.
Tonight.
Talking to Keith, absolutely. Let's see who's where for the Cubs this evening. Coughlin, last night's hero with a home run. Well, Sherwolds was a hero too. A couple of heroes out there in left and right. Justin Ruggiano is playing center field. Mike Gold gets a start at third base today. Castro and Bonifacio up the middle. Anthony Rizzo at first base. John Baker behind the dish for hard throwing right-hander Edwin Jackson, making his 12th start. 3-5 with a 481 for Edwin so far. 2-2, 393 lifetime against the Mets. He split 2 decisions against them last year. His whip a little higher than you would like, about 1.3 is league average. You see, he's been more of a ground ball type pitcher. Strikeout rate better than league average. Walk rate a little too high.
The umpires, led by Todd Titchener, he's behind the plate. Clint Fagan is at first. Tim Timmons at second. And another Tim Welke, the crew chief, at third.
Tim Tuffle's coaching third base.
A lot of Tims. Here's a Matt Den Decker. Left-handed hitter, and Jackson ready to work, and we are underway. It's a strike call. The wind is howling straight in. It's a foggy night.
There could be a homer in the Globeman tonight.
Inside, 1 ball, 1 strike. It's a chilly 57 degrees.
A little let up there from Jackson. Left-handed hitters hitting 306 against Edwin. Here's a look at the weather. Humidity's high. 57. The sun is out, though. It had been cloudy and misty earlier. A lot of rain earlier today. The field's in great shape, though.
Very heavy air.
Back-to-back changeup. But anyway, left-handed hitters hitting 306 against Jackson with a 364 on base. and a .463 slugging. So he's going to turn those numbers around a little bit. 5 left-handed bats in the lineup for the Mets tonight.
Here's a 2-2 on the way, and it's just off the outside.
Clearly trying to make it a little bit of an adjustment. That's 3 consecutive changeups from Edwin. There's the batting average and home run numbers. The home run numbers for Edwin overall really, really good. Just 4 long balls allowed in 63 2/3 innings.
Looking for the second straight start with John Baker, and a swing and a miss on a fastball. That's the first out.
Maybe all those change-ups slows the bat down a little bit, but mostly just a really well-located 94-mile-an-hour fastball, and that almost always plays.
Here comes Daniel Murphy. He was just 4 for 29 on the Mets road trip, and he hits one toward the hole and has a base hit similar to the one he had last night. So he keeps hitting the ball to the other side of the diamond, and the Mets have a base runner.
Murphy, like he was trying to guide the ball that direction, trying to exploit that hole between third and short. He and David Wright have combined for more hits than any other tandem in Major League Baseball.
143 and counting.
And they're both among the league leaders in line drive percentage. Hitting the ball out of the ballpark. Murphy has 3, Wright has 4.
Wright second currently among National League third basemen in terms of all-star votes. Nolan Arenado of the Rockies leading the way. Wright has made 7 National League all-star teams. 1 ball, no strikes. Make it 1-1.
Power numbers really off for David Wright so far this year. I suspect as the weather heats up, so will he in that department. He's a guy who's always used the whole field, so you don't see a lot of shifting with David Wright in the batter's box. A year ago, hitting .277 with 7 home runs, .294 this year, and again the home run numbers down. And they were down last year overall for him too. I think he finished with 18 maybe. Does that sound right?
Sounds good to me.
Let's go with it. Ooh. Pitch tracks think. Could have gone either way. Wright was rung up on a borderline pitch last night.
Check on Murphy. Dives back in plenty of time. Assisted there by former Cub Tom Goodwin.
We have confirmation David Wright hit 18 home runs last year.
In on his hands, it's full. Murphy would have to think will be on the move here.
Wright's best home run season in 2008 when he hit 33. Nine steals for Murphy. He's been caught 3 times.
There he goes, and Wright with a late hack fouls it off.
That's the 3-2 foul ball principle kicking in.
What's the percentage?
In my make-believe world, it was, I don't know,
72.
Yeah, 72.9.
3 out of 4.
Right, pulling his hands in there, trying to hit the ball the other way. Much more likely to hit the ball in the air with that approach.
Ball 4.
Even when the power numbers are down, David Wright's such a good offensive player because he's a high average hitter who'll take his walks, so the on-base percentage is always up there.
I feel like the guys with the best eye at the plate, they always have an ability to exaggerate that pitch that's near the inside corner. Joey Votto very good at it, just kind of moves his rear end out of the way and makes it look a lot worse than it is. And he might buy a couple of non-strikes by doing that. Granderson, big night last night. 3 for 3 with a sacrifice fly, and he takes a strike. The 0-1 is lifted foul out of play. We talked with Keith Hernandez on the leadoff man and finished by chatting about the late Ralph Kiner and the Mets honoring longtime broadcaster with a patch on the right sleeve. Passed away in February. Hall of Famer, 10 years, 369 career home runs. He was first in the league in homers the first 7 years of his career. On the ground, Bonifacio the flip, Castro the turn, safe. It's going to be a tough turn because the ball wasn't hit that hard. So 2 outs in the inning, and they're at the corners.
Bonifacio able to charge that ball. You kind of have to temper it. You want to come and get it, but you don't want to be out of control. The backhanded flip to Castro for 1. Anderson catches the side of the bag and almost rolls his ankle. A little slip here coming out of the batter's box. Had they gotten the double play, it would have been the first time this year that Granderson had bounced into one. The Grandy man can run.
Yes, he can, John Sterling. Here's Bobby Abreu. Been pretty good for the Mets. 40 years old. Signed a minor league deal the last day of March and brought up about 3 weeks later from AAA Las Vegas. And he's been much better, small sample size, in a starting role than as a pinch hitter, hitting .351 as a starter, and he has killed the Cubs in this ballpark. .346 lifetime at Wrigley Field with a slugging percentage of over 700. Most of that damage done as a member of the Phillies. 1-1.
Not a Hall of Famer, but a Hall of really, really, really good. And boy, had he played all his games here, maybe would be a Hall of Famer with those numbers. Jeepa. The
1-1 is fouled off third base side. Well, Abreu kind of fits the Sandy Alderson mold. Takes walks. It's one thing the Mets do well. They have not hit for much home run power. The Cubs staff doesn't give up many home runs. Major League low 35 on the year. And again, the wind blowing in tonight. A 1-2 on the way. Up the middle. Castro can't get it off his glove, and the Mets have a 1-0 lead. That'll be an error on Castro. Well, he seemed really cautious going after that ball. He knew he had time to get Abreu, but he just could not flag it down.
Kind of short-armed it a little bit. I don't know if he took his eye off it momentarily as he watched the base runner coming from first base, but he was shifted that way, so he didn't have very far to go. Kind of got a little caught in between with his footwork and essentially whiffed on it.
So the Mets got their lone run last night in the first off Jake Arrieta. They get an unearned tally tonight off Jackson. And Now, when this happens with 2 outs on what looked to be a pretty routine play, now you start keeping tabs on every extra pitch the starter has to throw. You know, Jackson can't do that and Castro can't, but you just hope he can get that 3rd out here relatively quickly. These are bullets you'd much rather save. 0-2. How do you feel like you responded to errors? You feel like you kept a pretty clear head?
Yeah.
Let it bother
most
you
guys
too much?
do. Yeah, most guys are pretty good about turning the page.
Knocked down by Baker on the pitch that bounced. But I'm sure you had teammates who didn't.
Oh yeah, you could. A lot of times you can tell by the guy's body language. You know, you hope that guys get over that by little league or high school, but you still see it sometimes even here at the highest level. The guy will kick a ball behind a pitcher, and you see the pitcher, you know, toss his arms up or shoulders will slump. You have that little moment internally. You have that. You got to be kidding me, man! Make that play moment, and then you move on.
That's always the best tack to take. One and two. Here it is. Driven to left. That is trouble. Coghlan will chase it down, and the Mets are going to get a couple more. Lucas Duda with a 2-run double. And they make the Cubs pay. 3-0.
And that's part of the formula too. You know, the ability to pitch around errors. You know, clearly Castro's error looms large in this inning, but you know, sometimes you got to be able to pitch around an error, minimize the damage. Just as a pitch up out of the zone, Duda rides into the left field corner. Big strong guy, just punches it with authority the other way.
Now the catcher, Anthony Recker, getting his 19th start, a former Cub. Just 9 games in 2012. And ball 1. Kind of inning makes you think about the Mets. We showed the numbers last night. They score a lot more on the road than they do at home. Kind of hard to explain, but they're averaging almost 5 runs per game on the road, and about 3 at Citi Field. 3.17 in their home ballpark.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that's a good pitcher's ballpark, so that helps to explain some of that discrepancy. But that's a wide margin, home and road, for the Mets.
Above 500 on the road, in fact. The 1-2 from Jackson. And it's 2-2. He's had to make probably 10 more pitches since the error.
Yeah, and this is the, you know, the MO of this Met club. They draw a ton of walks. They see a lot of pitches.
In fact, this will be the 10th pitch since Duda's at bat started. And here it comes, and it's off the plate in. Ruben Tejada is on deck. Keep you posted on everything else around baseball tonight. Cardinals and Royals resuming their home and home. They're in Kansas City tonight. Well, the Cardinals finishing up a rough homestand. They go 2-7, I believe, and they're 9 games at home. Another 3-2 from Jackson. And a line shot that'll be caught by Ruggiano to end the inning. But 3 unearned runs for the Mets. And the Cubs are coming up when we come back. With seamless connectivity, the Cubs did win last night, but only 2 runs their last 2 games combined after they got shut out on Sunday. Bonifacio, Ruggiano, and Rizzo. Starlin Castro, you see, has started every game this year. Sherholtz, the game winner last night. Coghlan, the game tire. Oltz at third. Baker is the catcher. Jackson, the pitcher.
And the Mets defensively, Granderson left, Den Decker center, Bobby Abreu in right field. Left side of the infield, superior to the right side. David Wright's won a couple Gold Gloves. Tejada really good. Murphy has some problems, and Duda is somewhat limited range-wise. Anthony Recker behind the plate for 33-year-old right-hander Daisuke Matsuzaka. He's got a little bit of everything. Fastball, slider, cutter, curve, split finger pitch, gyro ball. Behind his back, Eddie Feiner closed his eyes between his legs, curveball. He's got a whip of 117. That's good.
You got a hook shot.
This is really good.
Underhand free throw.
Yeah, he's got the Rick Barry underhand free throw. His one start was a good one. He's made 16 relief appearances. 29 in the third innings, 20 walks.
Yeah.
That's what really grabs your attention.
Yeah, he's averaging over 18 pitches per inning. That's a lot. As he works to Bonifacio, and Emilio just kept the bat right on that back shoulder. On strike 1.
First came to the big leagues with the Boston Red Sox. He could touch 97 miles an hour. Now that fastball below league average. You saw that first one there at 86. There's 88.
Signed by the Red Sox out of Japan prior to 07. Red Sox bid over $51 million simply to earn the right to negotiate with him. Then they gave him a 6-year deal worth $52 million. He's from Tokyo, and he's facing the Cubs for the 2nd time in his major league career.
18-game winner in 2008.
Slap foul. Ruggiano on deck. And Rizzo here in the first inning. Only his second start this year. He's basically pitched in about every role possible. He's got a save to his credit as well.
See, that's his MO right there. When he gets ahead of you, he's trying to strike you out. He's not one of those guys that's pitching to contact. Now with the diminished fastball velocity, he would probably be better off pressing his advantage when he gets ahead of the hitters. As a hitter, you just got to wait him out.
Long pause when he has his hands over his head. And a ground ball to the shortstop, Tejada. Plays it aggressively and gets the speedy Bonifacio. We would love for you to take a picture of yourself. The term for that is selfie. And tweet it to us at hashtag WGN Cubs. Oh, that is Jaden Day. Oh, that's Sean Day's son. Sean works up here in the press box, in the press room, the dining room, and wow, what a good look! Yeah. Jaden Day, first birthday 3 days ago. Awesome.
Happy birthday, little man.
Yeah.
We'll go out on a limb here and guess that he stuck his finger in the cake.
1-0 on Justin Ruggiano. That sinker disappeared. As always, we would love to hear from you. Well, the last one had the sink. That one had a little cut. Now what?
Try to cut one over that outside corner.
93 reached back a little bit, fouled away.
Yeah, that's coming into this start. This is where he had topped out at 93. His fastball has been sitting right around 90.
Pulled into the corner, and it'll land fair just inside the chalk line. And Ruggiano has a double.
Slider didn't have a lot of bite. Stayed on the plate. Ruggiano went down and got it. Fair by inches. Chance here to get one back.
Well, Anthony had a rough start to the game last night. He struck out in his first 3 at bats. He committed an error as he overran a foul pop up. But then in the bottom of the 9th, he led off with an 0-2 base hit off a left-hander and eventually crossed the plate with the winning run.
See, that's the beauty of baseball. He's having a brutal night, and then he becomes one of the heroes.
Nice K with a 1-0 outside.
Could be an unsettling feeling for a hitter too. You punched out 3 times, and your final at bat, you're down no balls and 2 strikes. Yes, up over 900 here at Wrigley. Overall, really, really good. Yeah, on base percentage. And the walks drawn, that's really been the key.
Daisuke used to wear number 18. The ace of the staff in Japan wears that number, but Tim Tuffle, the Mets third base coach, wears number 18. So Matsuzaka with number 16. 3-1.
Isn't that Doc Gooden's number? Back in the day?
16? Yeah, I believe you're right.
So the ace in Japan wears number 18?
Yeah.
I wonder why.
I don't know the answer to that. Now Recker will head out.
Well, not a really big sample, but so far this year Matsuzaka has been really tough on left-handed hitters. And you see the walk leaders in the NL. Rizzo trailing only Andrew McCutchen. Giancarlo Stanton and the Fish will be here over the weekend. 4 out of 43 left-handed batters against Matsuzaka. That's an .093 average.
Rizzo takes the walk. Something he's very good at.
You got to kind of fight that instinct. If you're a middle of the order hitter and you got a man in scoring position, you want to drive that run home. But if you start to expand the zone to try to make it happen, you're just going to get yourself out. This is an RO, what we like to call a redemption opportunity for Starlin Castro.
Ruggiano at second, Rizzo at first.
Slugging numbers much better for Castro this year than last.
It's a slow breaking ball for a strike. Ryan Webb watching us on WGN America up in Portage, Wisconsin.
Isn't he a pitcher, Ryan Webb?
I don't think it's at Ryan Webb. The 0-1 and a base hit to right. Ruggiano will come around to score. Rizzo on his way to third. And the throw will be cut off near second base. 3-1 as Castro knocks in Ruggiano.
Game on. Here we go. Matsuzaka has not had great fastball command here early on. Trying to go in there on Castro. Left it out over the plate. Curvature to right. Cubs are on the board.
Not that everything goes true to form in this game, but we've already seen over 50 pitches combined here in the first inning, and that is not a big surprise.
Yeah, both these pitchers typically throw a lot of pitches, and they don't work particularly quickly either, especially men on base. And by the way, did you catch what Gary Pressey just played on the Stadium
I
organ?
did not.
Yesterday. Nate Sherrills had a big day yesterday.
He had 3 hits, including the game winner.
Gary believes in yesterday. Let's see if Nate Sherrills can deliver today. We could do that. You know, we could play Name That Tune with Gary.
The big hit in the 9th was the 499th of Sherholtz's career. Fouled away.
Last 10 days or so, much better from Nate, but it's been a kind of a slow, steady climb. Look at his career numbers: 261 batting average, 224 right now for this year. But back on May 7th, at the conclusion of play on the 7th, he was hitting $188. Since then, 274 with a 357 on base and a 425 slugging. It's more in line with what you would expect. Three-hit game yesterday. That was his 4th multi-hit game in the last 9. Mets are looking for 2. Creates a little opening there on the right side for him. Step out, yeah. No way a hitter can maintain his concentration that long.
Comes a 1-2 and it misses low and away. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
I think with a lot of the Cub left-handed hitters, the Mets are adopting a pitch away, play away philosophy. Their outfielders shifted the other way. They got Granderson a step or 2 towards the line and left, and Decker shading towards left center. Certainly was the case last night with Zach Wheeler. Throwing that 2-seam fastball at about 95 with real good run away from the lefties.
Full count, 3-2.
Typically in this situation, Nate is hacking. He doesn't walk a lot.
And Worthen, the Mets pitching coach. There goes Castro, and a ground ball to first, knocked down by Duda. A little bobble. He'll only have one play. That's to the bag. As Rizzo scores, Scherholtz will get an RBI, and the Cubs are now within a run, 3-2. Only in the first inning.
Hit it sharply. Duda right there. If he gets it cleanly, he's going to have a shot at Rizzo at home, but he didn't do that, and first base became his only play.
It'll bring up Coghlan, who tied the game with a home run in the 8th inning last night. His first as a member of the Cubs, and his first in over a calendar year. Strike called on a curve. Jackson giving up 3 unearned runs in the top of the inning on 33 pitches, but his offense is getting him back into the game. With a soft liner right at Murphy to end the inning. So Matsuzaka had to labor. It's 3-2 Mets after an inning.
It might be. And it Cubs win. Cubs win. Cubs win. Holy cow. They're all waiting for Sean. Sean a meter up to 320.
Wrigley 100 moment. It was 25 years ago tomorrow when the Sean-O-meter was first unveiled here at Wrigley Field. Dave Sela is with us. You're the man. This is the Sean-O-meter. We've been talking about it for the last quarter century. Can you believe it's been 25 years?
No, it just flew by. It's just crazy how it races through. But it's great to be up here. I can't believe I'm sitting here where Harry Carey used to sit.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. All right, let's see it here, Dave.
You saved the Sean-O-meter?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So what I want to know is when it started. Was he under? He was right around 200 or under it?
We've got this if you want to show this thing.
There we go in the back.
Yeah, he had just popped over 200.
Well, he had 3 hits the day before. I think it was a 203, something like that.
Yeah, and he was about a week before that. He was hitting $176, and Rick Sutcliffe had the whole team sign a ball, and it was kind of in the news. And
chopper foul into the dugout.
My 2 friends Jim and Mindy were sitting around trying to think of something to come up and get a sign on at Wrigley Field on TV, and we're throwing ideas, and we had these 2 holy cow signs, and Jim said, how about the Sean-O-meter? And Sean wasn't hitting that great, but he was kind of on a roll, and it was kind of a no-lose proposition. He's either going to go up or he's not going to be in the majors. So it worked out. It was a perfect timing for us.
Fly ball pretty well hit, but the wind blowing in will make that a pretty routine out. So Sean's been asked about it. I guess at first he wasn't quite sure what to make of it, right? But then eventually kind of got the idea that it was a positive thing.
Yeah, I think he initially wasn't so thrilled about it, but he started hitting like crazy. He must have had about the best average in the National League.
True. You put pressure on him, man. You're flashing his batting average up there every time he came up. So my question is, how often did you change the Sean-O-meter? Like every at bat?
Yeah. Yeah, like Sean Dunston. That's for Sean Dunston Jr. playing tonight.
Oh, okay. So he's hitting 245.
Right.
The Sean Jr. meter.
So you're heading out there tomorrow, right?
No,
or are you going to be here?
We're going to be here.
Oh, you're going to be here. Okay. So did you come out with a calculator, or did you already have it written down? If he goes 0 for 1, it's this, 1 for 2, that.
We had a little solar calculator, and then we kind of just wrote down what he started the game at, like he was 50 for 198 or something, and then we just went from there. But we changed it as his average changed. We had to scotch it. Every at bat. Yeah.
Professional.
Yeah.
And so how old were you at the time?
25. Yeah. So I'm double that now.
Well, here's the other question. Did you have a game where you had a ball and you're like, I think they called it a hit, all right, and you do the thing and then you find out, change that to an error. Oh, man, we got to go back. And actually, 248 to 244.
I think our proudest moment was when they showed the meter in the bleachers, and then they showed Sean at bat with his average underneath, and it was different from what they had just shown in bleachers on the meter, and so they cut back a few seconds later with his correct average is what we had on the
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. And rising. Yeah. SK fouls off.
The bottom line was always sort of a space for running commentary, so we could change that to whatever was
trending. Yeah. So it was like social media kind of.
It was before email.
And were you a big Dunston fan, or did you just kind of did you become one because of this, or was it just kind of the Sean-O-meter sounded good and you rolled with it?
Yeah, we definitely became huge fans.
So okay, we see Sean all the time. Do you get a chance to meet him and take some pictures and all that with him?
Yeah, I got to meet him a few times. Cubs convention, outside of Shea, got to meet his whole family. His father looked exactly like Scott and Sean. So it was funny. They looked like brothers when I met the family. So yeah, it was a real nice family. Get to meet his mother and father and some siblings.
Ball 4. It's the Cardinals sin. You walk the opposing pitcher. So he is aboard with 1 out.
So, Mr. Sean-O-Meter, Dunston fan, what pitcher did Sean Dunston hit his most career home runs off of?
Not Dwight Gooden.
No, but you're on the right ball club.
Oh, I know. Pitched from. He didn't have a windup. He kind of pitched. Gosh, I'm drawing a blank.
Ron Darling.
Oh,
Ron Darling. Yeah.
How many did he hit?
4.
4.
Yeah, I got that. I'm cheating. I pulled it up over here.
Sure. And give us the Smithsonian story. How did that all happen?
I'd read in a magazine that anyone could contribute something to the museum, so I put together a package of video clips and writings and newspaper articles, and I shipped it off, and I was telling all my friends, just watch, Sean-O-Meter's going to be in the Smithsonian. And everyone thought I was crazy, and sure enough, a month later I get a letter in the mail saying, yeah, we'd like to accept this. We think it's an excellent representation of intersection between television and baseball fan enthusiasm. I was like, cool, I'll bring it out.
That's great. Yeah. Well, it's great to have you with us here, Dave. And yeah, have you thought in the last 25 years about a different meter with a different player? Or are you just going to kind of, you perfected it with Sean Dunston, you're going to leave it alone?
I think we're going to leave it alone and maybe see if Sean Jr.
If Sean Jr. gets here, that would be really neat,
yeah.
wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it very much. Oh, and yes, we have a T-shirt.
And those are for, I had a whole bag for you guys. So.
Very nice. Is a little low, back-to-back walks. Dave Sela, thanks for stopping by, man.
Thanks,
appreciate
Dave.
it. Pleasure to meet you.
Good stuff.
Pleasure.
So 25 years ago tomorrow, if you were wondering about who came up with the Sean-O-Meter, it's Dave. And now we're trying to figure out how to get Edwin Jackson back into the strike zone here against Daniel Murphy.
Yeah, and this is the anatomy of a bad inning, and walk the pitcher and then the leadoff man, a light hitting leadoff man at that, and Den Decker. Now you got to face the meat of the order here. Murphy and Wright, the two high average hitters, Wright, Granderson, Abreu representing probably their most dangerous hitters. But one ground ball, double play, and you're out of it.
Called strike. I loved Harry's call of that game-ending homer off. I think it was Craig Lefferts. It might be it. Cubs win.
It might be it. Cubs win.
Yeah, just that's how you do it.
Caught up in the moment.
Chest blocked by Mr. Baker.
Yeah, really well done there. It was a tougher when they bounced that far out in front of home plate. A little scud, about a 55-footer, and drops the glove down to cover the 5-hole, and then just tilts the chest forward to not only block the ball but control the rebound.
One and two on Murphy. Here it comes. Another block by the catcher. So just to finish up, the Sean-O-Meter debuted when Dunston was hitting .203. He had 3 hits on June 4th of that year to go from 187 to .203, and Sean finished at .278 by the end of the year. So I don't know if they had a feeling or not, but they picked the right guy. By and large, the average kept going in the right direction the rest of the season. 3-2 with Wright on deck.
High pitch count led to an early move to the bullpen last night for the Cubs, and Edwin Jackson throwing a bundle here in the first couple innings.
Could be two. Castro the flip. And the tag applied. They turn it. Bonifacio's throw took Rizzo toward home plate, but he was able to tag Murphy, and they get the double play to end the inning. Ricky Renteria, log on to WGNTV.com right now. Click on the WGN Sports Game Zone banner and connect to all the up-to-the-minute stats and info while watching at home. Game Zone is sponsored by The Great Escape, pools, patio sets, play sets, hot tubs, and more. Mike Alt. Pitch ball one. 9 outs were recorded prior to that pitch on 83 pitches combined.
It's not a real good ratio.
Popped him up into shallow right. Murphy, with his arms in the air, will make the catch.
This homestand, the Mets and the Marlins are here. The Cubs celebrate the 40s. The planned festivities include music, food, and giveaways that reflect the 1940s. For more information about the year-long celebration, visit WrigleyField100.com. Tickets are available for all games on the homestand, so visit Cubs.com to purchase your seats today.
Marlins have been good. Not on the road. Way better at home. And that ball in the air to left. Granderson, who played right last night, makes a catch.
Marlins 30-28, game and a half behind Atlanta in the East. Scoring a ton of runs. John Giancarlo Stanton is a beast, doing beastly things. Stanton leads the NL in home runs with 16, RBIs with 51.
Jackson pops it up. Abreu to end the inning. That was a quick 1-2-3 for Matsuzaka. 3-2 New York.
And Joint Institute. We take a look at a couple of star performers back from injury. Josh Hamilton had left thumb surgery, went on the DL April 9th. That was because he dove head first into the base when he probably shouldn't have. But he had a home run last night, first game off the DL, and Jose Abreu continuing to do what he did before he got hurt. 2 home runs in 2 games since returning from the DL. Illinois Bone and Joint Institute, helping you move better so you could live better. Visit IBJI.com. Speaking of comebacks, how about Jason Lane?
Amazing.
Last we saw him, he was a 30-year-old outfielder. That was in 2007. Now he's a 37-year-old relief pitcher. 7 years out of the big leagues. Lane, who was a two-way player at USC in college, left the game as an outfielder, continued to work at it on the mound, worked his way back through independent ball, finally hooked on with the Padres, and last night he comes in and works 3 1/3. Perfect innings of relief.
See if Jackson can do what Dice K just did with a quick 1-2-3. Carlos Gonzalez goes to the DL. Inflammation in his index finger on the left hand. And one other note about Jason Lane, it was the Chris Burke home run, right, in the 18th inning in the division series. If he hadn't hit that homer and the game had gone to the 19th, it was a rocket and a leaping catch out there by Coughlin. I believe Phil Garner said Jason Lane would have pitched.
Probably, yeah. He used to. I know he used to go down and kind of just goofing around, throw some bullpens.
We will have more on it later. But sad news, Mark Topkin on the Tampa Bay Times. He covers the Rays. I just talked to Tom Zimmer, who tells him that his father Don, the former Cubs manager, has passed away at age 83. That's very sad news. Rick Renteria just got thrown out by Todd Titchener.
Well, they were barking back and forth, and Titchener gave him the kind of the final. That's enough, and Ricky fired back one more time, and Titchener seems almost apologetic about it, as if to say, Ricky, I had to do it, man. I said my piece, you said yours.
That's the fourth time he's been ejected.
Yeah.
That's got to be leading all managers. Could have been a strike.
Could have been, but the other pitch he missed. Yeah.
So 1-1 on Granderson. So we've been talking about the Shawnometer, 1989. Zim was a manager. Cubs won 93 games that year. Won the division. Popeye played for the Cubs. Played for Brooklyn. And then the Dodgers when they moved to LA as well. Finished up with the Washington Senators. And was a longtime Rays senior advisor. More information from Mark Topkin. Yes, he had Zimmer had been in the hospital since heart surgery on April 16th. And his son Tom said he went peacefully. As Granderson foul tips for strike 3. 2 down.
'94 with run to get Granderson.
Jim had a long run as Joe Torre's right-hand man too, right? In New York. 6.5 decades in baseball, 5.5 in the big leagues. But Don Zimmer managed the Padres, the Red Sox, the Rangers, the Cubs. Appeared in 2 World Series as a player with the Dodgers, with Brooklyn in 1955, with LA in 1959. The Dodgers would win it those 2 years. 59 against the White Sox. And the 2-1 on the way to Abreu is off the plate in.
Zim earned a reputation of being somewhat unconventional as a manager. Was known to hit and run with the bases loaded.
And Abreu takes the walk. And we're getting a lot of tweets here.
But, that was always the story. I don't know if that's actually that actually happened or not, but I suspect it did. Brandon Hyde there, the acting manager for the Cubs now. Ricky Renteria's ejection can open up the strike zone a little bit for Edwin Jackson, then it will be worth it.
Here's a pitch. And it's ball 1 on Duda. Ryan Stites tweets the second after we mentioned that Zim has passed away. Renteria gets tossed. A fitting tribute. Yeah, yes, in a way it was. He was a fiery guy. Yep.
Not the ratio of strike to balls you're looking for. 4 walks issued by Edwin already.
Fly ball pretty well hit. Left center on the warning track. It'll be caught by Coughlin. As we remember, a man who had very strong ties to the Cubs as a player and as a manager. Don Zimmer. GNTV.com, sponsored by Jeff Vukovich, your nationwide insurance agent serving the area for 36 years. To join the nation, contact Jeff at jeffvuk.com. Nationwide is on your side. Yes, he's been serving the area since that man's beard started growing.
Play for the old House of David barnstorming team there. Quality beard.
Check out Chris Bryant's interview with Mick Gillespie from the leadoff man. Boy, a very polished, poised young man at 22 years old. And JD with their post on War Stars. Not Star Wars, War Stars. One away here in the third. Let's hear from Chris Bryant. Mick asked him, you know, it's been basically a year. Why are you so polished?
I think, you know, the whole college experience and, just, going out there every day, practicing, playing baseball every day, and then coming to professional baseball and playing a game every day, you really got to get used to that, get your body used to that. And, if I were to come right out of high school, high school was a little bit different. You didn't really have to practice every day. You kind of just, played here and there. But I definitely would attribute that success to, going to college.
Good stuff. Go to college, youngsters.
Unless they offer you a boatload of money.
And maybe you'll be the number 2 overall pick. Inside 3-1 to Ruggiano. 3-2 Mets. All the runs combined coming in the first inning.
Gianno doubled down the left field line. First time up. It's time to work a walk. On Saturday, June 21st, by catching the outfield, hitting the hit in the batting cages, or relaxing the dugouts here at Wrigley Field during Catch in the Confines, presented by Advocate Children's Hospital. Tickets include a personalized photograph, a baseball, and a Wrigley Field 100 DVD. All proceeds benefit Cubs charities. For more information or to purchase tickets, visit cubscharities.org.
Rizzo walked and scored in the first. Brent Smith tweets to us, my dad saw Zim on the street once, asked if he could sign a ball for me. He did. They talked about the Cubs for 15 minutes. Great man. Runner goes. That ball hooked foul. Look out in the bullpen. Two balls and a strike.
Is it me, or does it look like Anthony's moved up on the plate a little bit here?
Closer to the plate or up in the box?
Closer to the plate.
Yeah, no, he really seems to be crowding it. Yep. I like seeing that guys make adjustments. Talk to former position players. I know Keith Moreland said all the time that guys would shift in the box during an at-bat based on what they thought they might see. There goes Ruggiano. The pitch is low and in. The throw is on time. Anthony Recker's done a pretty good job back there. And he just nailed Ruggiano.
Yeah, with that caught stealing, he's now at 50%, which is way above average. Quick feet, strong throw. Ruggiano with a head first slide, and it just takes some steam out of his momentum. It's so much slide is kind of body slam into the dirt there. I think it cost him a little bit.
Right field and foul. Just got a text from Barry Rosner, who covered the Cubs beat back in the day, and he said, first time I walked into Zim's office, he yelled at me for asking a question, told me to get out. I got up, he started laughing, told me to sit down, said, I don't want you to ever be afraid of me. Treat my team with respect. We'll have a great time. We did. I loved the man, treated me like a king. Ball four. Rizzo on for the second time. Let's step aside and see what's coming up on WGN. Back here at Wrigley Field, the Mets and the Cubs. Game 2 of a 3-gamer. Len and JD and our WGN crew. 3-2 Mets. We're in the third inning. Also remembering and honoring Don Zimmer, who has passed away. That's the other thing too about the Cub thing, JD. Zim played here and he managed here, but he played and managed in a lot of places. But once you're a Cub, and especially you manage a team to a division title here, you're always a Cub.
Yeah.
You know. Outside, it's 2-0.
Well, they feared for his life back in 1950 something before he became a big leaguer. He got drilled in the head playing in the minor leagues. Very scary situation.
To Western Hills High School in Cincinnati, Ohio. Pete Rose attended that school a decade later. 3-1 on Castro. Daisuke running the baseball equivalent of the four corners offense. Really takes his time. Strike two.
Just does not want to throw it over the plate until he absolutely has to. So if you're willing to chase, he'll take full advantage. If you're patient, you're going to end up in a deep count, like has been the case often tonight. He breezed through the bottom of the order in the second, but in the first inning and here in this inning, very, very cautious.
Fouled back. Zim was an original New York Met. He started the Mets' first game ever at third base, and on the very first play committed an error.
Kind of set the tone.
It was a rough year for the Mets. 1962. Abreu coming on, and down to his knees as he makes a catch for the third out. A couple of walks in the inning, but no runs. Still 3-2 Mets.
Beer of Major League Baseball. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds.
And you can grab some food. 3-2 Mets as they bat in the 4th inning. This is the 1940s homestand, and some of the eats the Cubs are featuring here at Wrigley Field is the Kraft Monte Cristo sandwich, ham and Kraft aged cheddar and provolone served on Texas toast dipped
here
in egg butter.
Yeah, that's good for you.
That's kind of what I'm.
It's got the little jelly there. You dip it in.
We got the Kraft's loaded homestyle mac and cheese with artichokes and pulled chicken. There's the mac and cheese and the Vienna beef corn dog nibbler. Deep fried Vienna beef mini corn dogs. Today is National Cheese Day as well, and Kraft was also celebrating 100 years, donating $100 to Cubs charities for every opposing batter a Cubs pitcher strikes out here at Wrigley Field in June. The funds will benefit programs based on health, fitness, and education for at-risk youth and families. And they have distributed K cards to help celebrate each strikeout during the game. Nice short hop pick by Anthony Rizzo to get Anthony Record.
Record's hit the ball pretty well twice tonight, but he's 0 for 2. Hang with him. Got to aim better. Sharply hit. Rizzo off the line, able to make the play. Down on one knee, trots over to the bag, and a quick out for Edwin Jackson. Edwin looking for his first 1-2-3 inning.
Two 2-0 on Tejada. Just kind of hanging out. It's early. Start to scramble probably in around the 6th. Fly ball to deep left. Coughlin back, and it is gone. A home run for Tejada. He's been hot lately. On Saturday in Philadelphia, he snapped a 552 at bat homerless drought, which had been the longest active streak, and he's now homered twice within a few days.
It's fastball running in on him just a little bit. He was able to square it up and knock it out of here. Edwin will not get his first 1-2-3 inning. Known more for his glove than his bat, with his second home run of the year.
Strike one called on Daisuke. 4-2 Mets. Didn't shorten up with 2 strikes, did he?
Did not change his approach.
Clark, the official team mascot and newest member of the Cubs, can be a part of your event. For charity events, wedding receptions, birthday parties, to grand openings and Little League contests, Clark wants to be a part of it. So go to Cubs.com/Clark. You can email Clark at Cubs.com or call 773-404-4050 for more info on how to book Clark for your special event.
Good action on that pitch.
Swinging strike on Den Decker. Rizzo will get another chance. And the inning is over. Homer by Tejada as we enjoy some eats from the 1940s. I'm going to have that.
The little nibbler is not bad.
America, thank you for your service, sacrifice, and dedication.
Great to have Sergeant Travis Weber at the ballpark tonight. Yeah, nice touch. As JD is putting a hurting on the Monte Cristo sandwich.
Now, yeah. A little jelly here and there.
Here, we've got more napkins.
Yeah.
Cubs trail by 2.
That's Zaka. You know, he's been around the block. He knows how to pitch, and he's had success at the big league level. But nothing about the way he's pitching tonight gives you that sense in the home dugout. Oh man, we're in for it tonight. You know, we're down a couple of runs going into the middle innings, but you know, he has struggled with his command. I feel like he should be able to score a couple more off him. Force Terry Collins to get into that bullpen. It's pretty tired bullpen after all the extra innings they played in Philadelphia. 5-game series. They played 2 14-inning games, an 11-inning game.
Two one on the way. 2-2. Called strike 3.
He lulled them to sleep and then beat him with a 93.
And that is his first strikeout. Let's take a look at the Cubs' forward upcoming schedule. If you're coming out tomorrow, we're starting an hour earlier, 6 o'clock. And then late afternoon starts on Friday and Saturday, which we'll have right here on WGN. Ford, go further in any one of Ford's many fuel-efficient vehicles. Check out America's freshest lineup at your local Ford store or at localfordstores.com. I'll give you one other Zim note. I just saw on Twitter, Bruce Levine from The Score. 1988. Here's a pitch. He says, Zim told me to get out of his office so he could study the matchups. Altobelli walked into the office, racing form in tow. It's old school. Arnie Harris will go to the track with Zim back in the day. Suzaka coming back on a 2-1 pitch, and that's a foul ball. Padres got 1 hit today and beat the Pirates 3-2. It was a bunt single in the first inning by Everth Cabrera.
Wow.
How about that shot? Zim along with Tommy Lasorda and Harry around the batting cage. The stories those 3 guys could tell. Padres scored on a sac fly, an error, and a walk with the bases loaded.
That's pretty creative there, Buddy Black. Put that one on his resume. Ian Kennedy beat Francisco Liriano. Liriano now 1-6. Andrew McCutchen hit a home run.
For Xfinity Speed Replay, you referenced it earlier. Here's Jason Lane.
He strikes out the first one.
Faced 10, retired all 10 last night for the San Diego Padres in his return to the big leagues. Xfinity, your home for the most live sports.
Three and a third, did not allow a base runner, struck out 3. You see his career mostly with Houston from 02 to 07, close to 500 games, 241 with 61 home runs.
Pulled into the corner, and Coughlin will have at least 2 here. It will slip by Abreu, and Coughlin will make third.
Well, it's so important to get that extra 90 feet with 1 out in the inning. Makes Mike Bolt's job a lot easier. Helicopter slider yanked into the right field corner. He might have been thinking about 3 bases anyway, but after a little bit of a slip by Abreu, no slowing down Chris Coughlin. That should be a triple.
We'll bring up Bolt with the infield back and 1 out, and ball 1 outside. First triple for Coughlin. hit his first homer last night.
Taking care of his hitter's bucket list.
14th triple of his career.
Well, if you're Michael, you don't want to roll over on one to third base here. Think middle of the diamond. Get it airborne or ground ball to short or second base, gets that run home. Oakland should be going on contact here. Contact has been a problem for Michael lately. A lot of strikeouts. This came missing his spot there by about 3 feet.
Comes his 2-1. Well, that breaking ball backed up, not really where Matsuzaka wanted it, but he got the desired result. Look how
it's
badly missed.
Yeah, it's 2 in a row. He hasn't come close to the intended location. But again, here we go. 2 strikes. You gotta just use the hands, make some contact here.
It's interesting, just the body language of the Mets defenders behind Daisuke tonight. A lot of standing around.
Good job.
These old walks. We'll bring out the pitching coach, Dan Worthen. We'll talk about this ad nauseum. I know we bring it up a lot, and some guys just work this way, but it's got to be hard on the defense to stay focused.
Oh gosh,
when you're getting ready for every pitch.
Oh yeah.
He's made almost almost 75 pitches. Jackson's had to throw 86 in his 4 innings.
Well, this, and with Edwin and Matsuzaka going there, and they're both fairly slow workers, especially with men on base. Typically take a lot of time between pitches. So as a position player, you just kind of know going into this game that this is the pace at which it's likely to be played. And you say, well, why don't the pitchers change it? Pitchers have a comfort zone where they feel like they're at their best when they work a certain way. And I think position players and pitching coaches and managers are hesitant to talk to pitchers about that. They don't want to, push them into doing something they're not comfortable doing.
Two on with 1 out and ball 1 to John Baker. Coghlan at third. Olt is the runner at first.
Meanwhile, my final bite of my Monte Cristo is getting really cold.
Hitters count here for Baker.
Yeah, so not necessarily a situation where you're going to be patient here. You've got the pitcher on deck. You got a guy who's not throwing many pitches in the zone. That doesn't mean you get passive. You're looking for a pitch you can drive right here. Nibbler. You should have a corn dog nibbler. And the thing about it is, Matsuzaka, when I was reading the profile on him tonight coming into this game and his average velocity sitting around 90 miles an hour, he's been better than that tonight. We've seen him 2 or 3 times at least at 94. We've seen a few 93s. He's got good enough stuff to be much more aggressive.
That deflects off the leg, I believe, of Matsuzaka, and they're going to get a 6-4-3, actually a 1-6-4-3 double play as a result, and that will get him entirely out of the inning. 100 guests for corporate gatherings, family reunions, and bachelor or bachelorette parties. Individual and group tickets are available for all games. For more details, go to WrigleyvilleRooftops.com or call 773-248-ROOF.
Buzzard's luck for John Baker there to end the fourth. He hit that ball well. Doesn't get a piece of Matsuzaka. It's probably a run-scoring single. But it happened, and the Cubs continued to trail by 2.
Murphy, Wright, Granderson due up for the Mets. Holt in at third. And a strike call.
Murphy bounced into a double play his last time up, taking the Mets out of a potential run scoring inning.
Here comes the 0-1, and that one drilled into center for a base hit.
Stayed back on the changeup there, and it looked like that one was telegraphed a little bit by Edwin. Kind of slowed down his arm.
Justin Grimm getting loose just in case. About this time of the ball game, you see guys stretching in each bullpen, so they're not caught off guard when they have to start throwing.
Middle innings, the bullpen guys will get up, move around a little bit, get a little blood flowing. The bench guys will go back underneath, take some swings. Especially on a night like tonight when it's a little cooler. It's been a very slowly played ball game. So you're talking about Don Zimmer, and one of his nicknames was the gerbil. I just got thinking, and this, there's really no punchline or any end to this, but I got thinking about, in the day. So we had a gerbil, we had the Whitey Herzog, the rat, Bob Lillis, the flea, all managing at the same time.
Called strike 3. 4 now for Edwin. We'll bring up Granderson. I'm not sure what David was looking for on that one.
Yeah.
Right where you would think he wanted it, which means he probably was thinking going to get something else.
Just took it, couldn't pull the trigger, and hoped he'd get a call. Shift on as Olt works his way over to the right side of the infield, positions himself between Rizzo and Bonifacio. Castro moves in. Help defend against a push bunt.
Great note, baseball reference about Zim, that he was the answer to this trivia question. Who was the main Dodgers shortstop between Pee Wee Reese and Maury Wills? Don Zimmer. It's Carlos Villanueva in the home bullpen. The 0-1 outside on Granderson. Chicago native. Now played with both New York teams.
Now at 2 strikes, Castro will retreat to a more normal shortstop position.
Ground ball, who wants it? Bonifacio, but a little collision there with Olt. Now nobody covering third. Jackson with a heads-up play to get over there, as Murphy has to then head back to second. Well, I can't say I've ever seen that. A second baseman and third baseman on the right side colliding because of the shift.
So he gets tangled up as he tries to get to his feet to make a throw. The only play he was going to have was to first base. All right, so you stack your defense so you have more guys over there, but in this case it becomes a bit of a problem. And a good heads up play by Edwin to run over there and cover third base. You play third base. There's nobody to your right. It's the third base line and the third base coach. So you don't have to worry about dealing with another player over there. Kind of a funky situation for Alt.
Broken bat fly ball. The barrel of the bat ended up behind the dugout. The ball is caught by Sherholtz. Murphy tags and heads to third, and I think everybody's all right. Whew, that's scary.
Probably would have been enough to score Murphy had he been able to get to third on that previous play.
Murphy at third. Granderson at first, 2 outs. Visitors leading 4-2. Duda takes ball 1. Adam Wainwright has been good tonight. Cardinals leading 1-0 into the 7th in Kansas City. Wainwright has allowed 1 hit. Swing and a miss.
Rays in jeopardy of losing their 9th consecutive game. Trail the Marlins 5-3. They're in the 8th in Tampa.
Duda could not hold up. Rays are 23-36. Worst record in the American League. And it's smothered as Granderson took off for second and gets his second steal of the series. And his 4th of the year. Meantime, 3-2 on Duda.
Duda with the big hit so far in the game, a 2-run double back in the first. The fastball that was up and away and just lined it into the left field corner.
Well, the Cubs used a lot of bullpen last night, and now acting manager Brandon Hyde, after the ejection of Rick Renteria, might need some length out of Carlos Villanueva. if Jackson can't go deep into this game. And as you saw, already over 100 pitches.
Yeah, and Jackson due to lead off the bottom half of the inning, so you'd love to get through this.
The 3-2 fouled in and out of the mitt of Baker. There's Brandon Hyde, the bench coach. Obviously relying on Chris Bosio, the pitching coach, as well. And they're loaded.
If I were Ricky and I got ejected from this game, and managers don't do it, they can't do it, they got to be here to answer the press and deal with whatever other issues may come up after the game or during the game. But I'd be tempted to go out and get a nice steak somewhere.
Well, that's why you're sitting up here with me and not down there. Hey, somebody send me a text and let me know what happened.
Yeah, you know, got capable lieutenants down there. You get ejected, it's on you guys. Let me go get a nice steak.
Last year, Jim Deshaies, the manager, managed 153 games. You only missed 9. He's managed over 150 games 5 years in a row.
You don't want to overmanage. Get Edwin Jackson through this inning. So we can pinch hit for him in the bottom half. Could have been.
Now this Mets team, they are just not going to let you off the hook if you're not in that box.
And walk more than anybody in baseball, more than anybody in the National League anyway.
Explain this one to me. The base is loaded. A 2-0 count. You get that pitch.
Well, yeah, that's the danger of that. You know, that take mentality. Sometimes you let a very hittable pitch go by.
Good thing for Edwin, he took it. But he also took that one, and it's 3-1. Well, I guess the thought is, if you're Anthony Recker, I'll probably get another one in this at bat. But we'll see if he gets another pitch quite like that 2-0.
Yeah. I think, you know, he should. This is a situation where Edwin, he's kind of backed into a corner with a 3-1 count and the base is loaded. Recker's not David Wright. If it was David Wright, I'd still be trying to make a pitch with a breaking ball or paint a corner. But with Recker, I think you got to be a little more aggressive.
Popped him up on the 3-1. Well, remember that sequence. As Jackson does get out of it, it's 4-2. Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. The sons of Stan Hack, Stan Jr. and Dave. We'll talk to Stan Jr. Smiling Stan played for the Cubs his entire Major League career. Also managed the team in the mid-1950s. Young Cub fans cheering on the home team as Darwin Barney will hit for Jackson.
See, that's essentially a free strike for Matsuzaka if he can find the strike zone. Barney coming off the bench to pinch hit. If Matsuzaka is aware, he knows that he struggled with his command, that in all likelihood Barney's going up there taking a strike. He's having a hard time throwing it over. Having said that, he's got the lead.
Four runs allowed in Jackson's 5 innings, but only one was earned. 3 unearned tallies in the opening frame. It's a grinder tonight for Edwin. 22 pitches per inning. Rising fastball beats Darwin Barney.
Looking for a way to make your business stand out from the competition? Host your best customers in a private suite at Wrigley Field. The NYN Investment Suites can accommodate anywhere from 15 to 55. Include food, all you can drink beverages, and parking. To book your premier experience here at Wrigley Field, visit Cubs.com/suites.
Bonifacio has grounded out and lined out. Joe's bunt takes a sinker low. Nationals leading the Phillies 8-4. That game going in, or rather in the top of the 7th now in a rain delay. Mayberry Jr. with his 3rd, Rendon with his 8th. Home runs so far. Dana Evelyn, the left-hander, is up for the Mets. Mariners shut out the Braves 2-0. Ground ball toward the middle and through.
Waits back nicely, does Bonifacio on that backdoor breaking ball. A great look at it. And started to drift a little bit, but kept the hands back. Well, 2-3 hitters here. Ruggiano, Rizzo, 4 times to the plate, and they've reached all 4 times. Double walk for Ruggiano, walk for Rizzo. Zaka, of course, has to finish this inning to qualify for the win. I'm not sure he's going to get that chance unless he gets a double play here. Rizzo coming up next.
Here's his 1-0 pitch in on the hands of Ruggiano. It's 2 balls and no strikes now. There's the chairman, Tom Ricketts. 3-0.
It'd be a great nickname, even if you weren't the chairman, just to be the chairman. Whitey Ford was the chairman of the board. Len prefers to go by Maestro. Ooh.
Another walk.
Borderline, but when you're throwing as many balls as Matsuzaka is, you can't expect to get that one called.
Will be it appears. Yep, Evelyn will be summoned.
Lefties have not been a problem at all for Rizzo this year. Good matchup coming.
Cubs trail 4.
Very limited work with the big club, obviously. One appearance, as a matter of fact. Down at AAA, he was 4-1 with a .391. Veteran guy, journeyman. He's been around with a number of different teams at the big league level. Throw a lot of sliders.
2 nights ago, his first big league appearance since the middle of 2012.
A Brewer, a D-back, an Athletic, a Dodger, an Oriole, a Blue Jay, a Pirate. Man.
He faces Rizzo with 2 men on and 1 out here in the 5th inning. Matsuzaka cannot qualify for the win. The pitch. It's a strike.
Yeah, and you know, I didn't deserve to, right? He didn't pitch a very clean game at all.
So if you add up the starters, 9 1/3 innings combined, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Daisuke and Edwin Jackson, 198 pitches combined.
Oof,
so Kyle Loesch threw 93 to get through 9 innings on Sunday. And a base hit to right. Bonifacio will be stopped by Gary Jones. The bases are loaded. Another hit for Rizzo off a lefty.
Yeah, they keep trying to throw him that little slider, and he just jumps all over it. Too sharply hit for Gary Jones to give Bonifacio the green light here. Keeps that front side in.
They say that might be it, but there's nobody up in the bullpen. It is the pitching coach, not the manager, out to the mound, Dan Worthen.
The Henderson Alvarez for the Marlins in his shutout last night threw 80-some pitches.
Yes, he did. 3rd shutout of the year for Alvarez, whom I believe would be scheduled to start Sunday here at Wrigley.
You know, they're playing that what-if game down in Florida. What if Jose Fernandez had stayed healthy? But it's a game a lot of folks are playing these days with injury bug that is rampant around Major League Baseball. well because of the short night for Matsuzaka and all the work that the Met bullpen has had, as I mentioned in that series with Philly. You can't play the matchup game in the 5th inning and try to carry that through the ball game. You've got to get some outs, some length out of somebody.
Ground ball through for a base hit, and the Cubs should tie it. Bonifacio in. Ruggiano scores. So Castro, who made that error in the 1st inning, and the Mets would score 3 unearned runs, has now knocked in 3.
Joking in his first at bat about redemption opportunities. He's had a couple of big swings of the bat here tonight. He actually pulls off this ball a little bit. He looked like he was trying to yank that one to left, but had enough left to hit it up the middle of the diamond to get 2 home.
And how about this? Edwin Jackson can still get a win. He completed 5 innings. And if the Cubs can push across one more here, he becomes a candidate to be the victor. One and 0 on Scherholz. So the plus minus is even for Starlin, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Swing and a miss on a slider.
When he first hit that one, I thought, oh no, another double play. There's been a couple of big double plays turned tonight, one for each side, but he had enough steam on that one to get it through.
To first, Duda will scoop and step on the base. Rizzo now at third, Castro at second, and it's Coghlan, the hitter.
And this is the kind of game that, we talked about in the field where it challenges you mentally because of the pace, but also on the base paths. I mean, every facet of the game, it's more of a challenge when the game moves this slowly to stay engaged, stay focused. It's something that Rick Renteria talks about all the time. 9 innings, whether it's 2 hours and 40 minutes or 3 hours and 40 minutes. Stay engaged.
Outside, ball 1.
Good professional at bats, smart approach at the plate, heads up base running, and ready to make plays in the field. This is the kind of game where you might see an outfielder catch a ball, flip it into the stands because he thinks it's the 3rd out when it's only the 2nd.
Jeuris Familia, right-hander. The big league pitcher Ricky Bonas, the bullpen coach, right behind him. 1-1 on Coghlan. Here it is in the dirt.
Ricky Bonas pitched for the Brewers when I was with the Twins, and I used to always yell out at the dugout, called him Prince. I thought he looked like Prince. There was something about the way he carried himself on the mound.
Yeah, kind of had a stylish way about him. An All-Star 1994.
Be ready for that ball in the dirt.
The 3-1 pitch, and the bases are loaded. will be it for the lefty. And it will be Familia against Mike Olt. We'll be back in a moment. "12 years, join the millions of subscribers. Catch every out-of-market game live in true HD on over 400 devices. Watch Cubs, or go to Cubs.com rather, for details." Cubs offense here, putting a lot of pressure on Terry Collins and his pitching staff. Remember, they had 3 consecutive extra innings games in a row in Philadelphia, and this is already the second reliever this inning in relief of Daisuke.
This guy can light up the radar gun, mid to upper 90s fastball, then he'll throw about 3/4 of the time. Busts that one over the outside corner. Sliders, and once in a blue moon a changeup.
A 4-4 tie. The bases are loaded with 2 outs. 1 strike to Olt. It gets away. Rizzo on his way toward the plate. No throw from Recker, and the Cubs lead. Cubs lead by a run, 5-4.
Hard slider down on the dirt. Recker not able to square up in front of it and contain it. It kicks off toward the Mets dugout, and Rizzo, after a bit of a hesitation, commits and scores the go-ahead run. Now Edwin Jackson is in position to be the winning pitcher.
Two and one. He's got a little hitch there right before he pitches. It almost looks like a balk. Like a little flinch from Familia right before the leg kick. Three and one.
There's that situation again where you don't want to let a good one go by. You got to be ready to hit here. looking for a certain pitch in a certain zone. For Holt, it would be fastball out over the plate.
And a bouncer to the shortstop. Tejada, and the inning is over. The Cubs get 3, 2 on a single from Castro, and the go-ahead run on a wild pitch. Taking a 5-4 lead, 3 unearned runs for the Mets in the first inning. Starlin Castro committed the key error, but he's also knocked in 3 at the plate. Start something special with great leases and low financing on a new Honda. Visit shophonda.com or visit your local Honda dealer. I guess if you were an ant crawling around on the infield dirt, you might get that view.
Ant cam. It's a new technology. We mount just a very, very little tiny camera. And Carlos 1-5, 7.98. That ERA had been trending downward till last time out. He came in relief with Travis Wood the other day in Milwaukee. Travis got knocked around, gave up 5 in the first. And really rough one, and then Carlos came in and things didn't go a whole lot better for him. He was charged with 4 runs on 5 hits and 2 1/3 innings of work.
Tejada with a home run his last time up. Veteran left-hander Wesley Wright heating up in the Cubs bullpen. Chris Young on deck in the pitcher's spot for the Mets. Buddy Carlisle. Fouled upstairs, 2-2. Full count, 3-2. I've said that a lot tonight. Jackson 5 innings, 4 runs, 1 earned. Matsuzaka 4 1/3 innings, 4 runs, 4 earned. Eveland charged with the go-ahead run. That is pulled foul to left.
Changeup up and in.
Yes, nothing better than getting a foul ball souvenir. Well, I guess it would be better, you know, game-ending Cubs home run, souvenir ball in the bleachers. That'd be pretty cool.
Get your Shawano-meter autograph. That would be cool. Hey, there's a walk.
And let's step aside and see what's coming up on WGN. So Terry Collins will pinch hit for Familia, who got the final out of the bottom of the 5th. The Mets are expected to have outfielder Andrew Brown on their roster for the game tomorrow night, which means they'll probably send out a pitcher. So Terry Collins is going to make sure he uses a lot of his bullpen tonight. It was not the plan going in, but Matsuzaka could only get through 4 1/3 on 88 pitches. Tough to be a reliever, JD. I mean, a lot of times in a situation like this, the Mets have a pretty good idea, at least the coaching staff, of who they're going to send out, and there's a pretty decent chance they'll use that guy tonight.
Sure. Use Jose Valverde to try to save a ball game and then released him after the game.
One and 2 on Young.
It's kind of an odd situation that he was deemed releasable, yet worthy of using to try to close out a ball game. Young 0 for 4 in the pinch this year. The Mets as a team hitting 182 in pinch hit at bats.
Checked his swing and scalded one foul.
Not to take the pitchers off the hook completely here, but it has been a pretty tight zone from Todd Tichenor, the home plate umpire. We talk a lot about umpires hunting strikes. I think that's been the case tonight.
Couple of big home runs for Young as an Arizona Diamondback in 07 in the playoffs against the Cubs. That looked to be pretty good.
Yeah, again, on another night, a different umpire, maybe you get that call, but that's been pretty consistent tonight.
Carlos Torres has joined the mix in the bullpen.
Chris Young's always been a dangerous hitter, not a high average hitter. He's hitting a .195 this year, .234 for his career. 148 career home runs. He's got good speed too.
That time, Villanueva gets the call. Chris Young saying, wait a minute, you didn't give him the last one, you're going to give him this one. Well, we have the benefit of quickly looking at a replay. So C5, this is number 6, and he's right. I mean, they were the same pitch. That's
the transitive property. If 5 touched the plate and 6 touches 5, It's a strike.
Well, they're all educated guesses when umpires are calling balls and strikes. Titchener probably said to Chris Young, do you want me to call you out on the previous pitch or that one?
I'm not sure, but I think one of those was a strike.
Like your transitive property. There's some umpire out there who's going to use that.
Or would it be the associative property?
I don't know.
A equals B, B equals C, therefore A equals C.
Sell it, man. We're going with transitive, whether it's right or not. It sounded good.
Now we heard from the English teachers the other night. Last night we'll hear from the math teachers.
I knew what you meant.
Well, what's this guy doing with his Rangers jersey on in the stands? Come on, pal.
Maybe he had plans to come to Chicago for other reasons. As Den Decker swings and misses.
I think he's just rubbing it in. Saw a lady with a Kings t-shirt on the street the other day. My daughter wanted to take her on.
Kick in the 0-2. Called strike 3.
How about that? You get the sense at times watching this Met lineup that they're taking this grind out at bats, take pitches approach to an extreme. They've taken some very hittable fastballs. Well, it's one of those guys, though. He'll get a lot of called strikes with his fastball because hitters are looking for the off-speed stuff. He'll go soft early and then lock him up with his fastball.
Twitter has blown up. Partner, you nailed it. Transitive.
Transitive?
You're right on. Yep. Nicely done. Last night you got among and amongst correct.
A couple of hits tonight. Very good numbers here at Wrigley Field in his career. Underrated player. He's a good player. Good offensive player, I should say.
2-1 on him. Known for his defense. You see what he's done in this ballpark. Driven deep left center, and it's going to bounce on the warning track. Tim Teufel's going to hold Tejada at third. It's a double for Murphy. He's got 3 hits tonight. That's threatening here with 2 outs, second and third, and it brings up David Wright.
This is where the friendly dimensions actually favors the team in the field. The short alley out there allows Coughlin to get that ball in a hurry, and Teufel decides to throw up a stop sign for Tejada. would not have found fault with Tuffle had he tried to score him there. It's a tough call for a third base coach to make. David Wright's not going to get a chance to drive in these runs.
Tough is his middle name. They're going to walk Wright. We've got left-handed hitting Curtis Granderson on deck. Now Wesley Wright.
Yep.
He's throwing in the bullpen.
That'll be the play.
Now you could have had Wright on right, even though it would have been left on right. But instead it'll be right on Granderson, which is left on left.
As it should be.
Here comes Brandon Hyde. The call has been made. Cubs leading 5-4 in the sixth. And there are 2 outs.
Numbers for Wesley in his first year with the Cubs are good. Hitting .229 against him, 18 innings, 16 hits, just one long one. And 2 strikeouts for every walk. Has a 4-pitch mix: fastball, curve, slider, and change.
Here we go. Right to Granderson, and a swing and a miss on a slider. Including tonight, Granderson has reached base in 17 straight games. He recently tied a big league record. He walked in 7 consecutive games without recording a hit. Wright has a sign from Baker. Here's the 2-1. Hit hard but foul. The 2-2. He got him. Swing and a miss to end the inning. The Mets have left the bases loaded in consecutive innings. Chicago. Hot Stove Cool Music Chicago's coming up in just over 2 weeks. Friday, June 20th at Metro across the street. We hope you can join us. MetroChicago.com for tickets. Tom Morello, Jimmy Chamberlain, John Sturrott, Scott Lucas, Eddie Kingroser, Jared Gummery, Tom Polche, Eddie Velazquez, Gary Cleve. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Peter Gammons. Theo will grab a guitar, and we'll have a wonderful time. Be playing music by Material Issue, Chicago, Urge Overkill, Shadows of Night. Do some blues. Junior Wells, Bo Diddley, the Ides of March. Got a horn section. It'll be a lot of fun. Buddy Carlisle, right-hander, facing John Baker.
Carlisle, like Evelyn, has been around a bit. He had not been in the big leagues since 2011 prior to his promotion this year.
A good comeback story. Diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic in 2009. He has spent some time in Japan. Drafted way back in 1996 by the Cincinnati Reds.
Broke in with the Padres in '99.
Called strike 3 as he freezes Baker.
Rucker wanted that one way up. One of two things there. Either Carlisle missed his spot badly or Carlisle just disregarded what Rucker was trying to do. So you can stand up if you want, but I'm throwing a strike.
Earl Carlisle, call him Buddy. Facing pinch hitter Junior Lake, who bats for right.
Leave Brandon Hyde with 2 men on his bench. Backup catcher Eli Whiteside, and remember Wellington Castillo's on the DL, so Baker is taking over as the primary catcher. Whiteside here to back up. Luis Valbuena, left-handed bat, of course, available. But, he's a little dinged up right now, but he is available.
Fouled back by Junior. Got a good pass at that ball. Now Justin Grimm has joined Russell.
This is a situation where certainly could have let Travis Wood take this at bat, or even Wesley Wright, and just saved your bench. I'm not saying this is a bad move, but I'm saying had you let a pitcher hit in this spot, it would have certainly been a defensible play as well. It's a little tougher manipulating those bench guys when you're carrying an extra reliever and only 4 men on the bench.
Swing and a miss. It's full 3-2.
If you go to a birthday party with Junior Lake, you don't want to let him have the first crack at the piñata. He's going to break it.
Got him on strikes.
Rashov called 3rd strikes all of a sudden. Good pitch. Yep.
Got it right. A's beat the Yankees 7-4 tonight in the Bronx. Yoenis Cespedes hit 2 home runs for the A's. Josh Donaldson hit his 16th.
Cespedes has been going off lately.
A's are 37-22. Not to say best team in baseball at this point. Caught by the shortstop Tejada. Carlisle goes 1-2-3. The Cubs lead by a run as we head off to the 7th. Anaheim. Born in the USA, Bruce Springsteen. That song was released 30 years ago today, 1984. Cubs with the lead. They gave up 3 in the first. But they were able to score 3 in the 5th and have a 5-4 advantage. As Bobby Abreu will face left-hander James Russell. And great to have with us in the booth Stan Hack Jr. The Cubs on this homestand honoring the 1940s here at Wrigley Field, and Stan Hack, 16 years all as a Cub, 1932 to 1947. Stan, great to have you with us tonight.
Thank you, Len. It's a pleasure being here. I would just like to thank Tom Ricketts and Todd and Laura and the whole club organization, Caitlin August. We're stoked to be here. Thank you.
So you will be singing with your brother Dave tonight?
Yes.
And you've got other family members here too, right?
Yes, we do. We live in Arizona now, so we've got 5 of us out from Arizona. We've got a cousin from California, and then we have some friends from Dixon and Grandy too are visiting.
1-1 on Bobby Abreu. And a ground ball. And the second baseman, Bonifacio. So obviously we've read a lot about your dad as a player. Tell us about Stan Hack as a person.
My dad, all as people could say, was Stan was a fantastic guy. He was a great ambassador for the game. His nickname was Smiling Stan.
You don't get that nickname without earning it, right?
Right, and they said he had more friends than Leo Durocher had enemies. All respect, Leo. Yeah.
Hit 301 in his major league career with a 394 on base average. Took a lot of walks.
He still owns the all-time walk record with the Cubs too.
Yeah, 191 hits in 1940 led the league. 186 hits in 1941. An all-star several times, and really the premier third baseman in the National League during his prime.
Dad started in 19.
It's a ground ball that'll be picked up again by Bonifacio. 2 outs.
Dad started in 1932, 21 years old, and his first year was in the World Series against the New York Yankees, and Game 3 was played right here, and that's when Babe Ruth pointed.
Right. What's his take on that?
Well, I'm going to tell you, JD, and I know it because he told me personally. You look down, you can see how close home plate is to the dugout. I mean, you can literally spit your gum out and hit somebody in the forehead. It's that close. And that day, the Chicago Cubs fans were really razzing Ruth, and so were the bench jockeys too. And my dad was one of them that day. Well, long story short, Babe Ruth was up to bat. He got 2 strikes.
Can we finish the story right after the pitching break?
You bet.
We'll be right back. More with Stan Hack Jr. Jr. So 1932, the Babe Ruth called shot.
Babe Ruth had 2 strikes on him, and he looked over at the Cub dugout, who was really razzing him, and he held up one finger and he said, "It only takes one." So from up above, the sports writers and things like that, they see a finger go up. Well, it just happened that the next pitch actually goes out to the bleachers, exactly where he pointed, but he actually just said it only takes one.
So it's kind of a semi-called
yeah,
shot.
Yeah.
Right?
Like,
you could say maybe not the
It's
exact
kind of
location, but 2 outs, nobody on. Anthony Recker, the batter. And dad later would manage the Cubs in the mid-1950s. Ball driven in the air to center as we get ready for the stretch. Brought to you by Budweiser.
Tonight's guest conductors for Take Me Out to the Ball Game, the sons of former Cubs great Stan Hack, Dave, and Stan Jr.
All right, Cub fans, let me hear ya. Good and loud. A 1, a 2, a 3. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. I don't care if I never get back, so let's root for the Cubbies. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. That one's for you, Dad. Let's get some runs.
Five 5-4, the Cubs will try to add to their lead here in the 7th. 1-0 the count on Justin Ruziano.
having a nice night. Double a couple of walks, scored 2 runs.
Two balls and a strike. Three and one. Cubs trying to make it 2 in a row. Clinch this series, which will wrap up tomorrow night. Right-hander Jacob deGrom and lefty Travis Wood. 3-1 inside, ball 4. bring up Anthony Rizzo.
Still haven't gotten Ruggiano out tonight. That's a 3-walk night. And Rizzo's been on every time up. So here's a fun one. In 1935, the Cubs had a Smile with Stan promotion for Smiling Stan Hack, and they gave away mirrors that had Hack's picture on the backside of it, and all the fans in the outfield were reflecting the sun on the mirror into the hitter's eyes for the opposition. It's good fans.
Yeah, I like the giveaways that give you a home field advantage.
Yeah. Umpires threatened to force the Cubs to forfeit if the fans did not stop, and then the league banned any similar promotion. So no more mirrors and laser pointers.
Did not strike out more than he walked in any of his seasons. There's Rice in the Mets bullpen. He took the loss last night.
We had that note earlier about Hamilton and Abreu coming back and doing damage. Same for Aramis Ramirez, who was activated off the DL tonight, went deep.
Marlins 5, Rays 4 final in St. Pete. 3-run homer by Donovan Solano, the big blow. 9-game losing streak for the Rays. Lost to first, runner back.
Kohler beat Price. Cishek with his 13th save. David Price now 4-5 with a 4.03 ERA. He's having a weird year. The numbers don't add up. He struck out 101 batters, walked 9.
Rizzo strikes out swinging. Yeah, that is odd. That's
really weird. The long ball has given up 13 home runs. It's probably been a big part of it. So I guess the Rays become sellers at the trade deadline.
I would think if they're in the cellar, for sure. Strike called, 1-1. Astros with a game-tying 2-run single in the 5th.
Look at him. Hitting the ball the other way, so they try to crowd him. Last time he actually tried to turn on one, the pitch was out away from him. He ended up hitting it back up the middle, but they've been pitching him in. He's starting to look in there a little bit. Saw a note today that Tampa and Houston are the only two teams in the American League not within, I believe it was 2.5 games of the second wild card spot. So if you are a seller at the trade deadline, unless there's a massive shakeup, and there's a similar thing going on in the National League, there's a lot of teams in play, or will probably feel like they're in play if this continues. So it's going to be a seller's market.
Well, yeah, I mean, Atlanta losing today got the Mets within 3 of the lead in the East. Miami is a half game out. That ball pulled to left. Granderson was way off the line. He'll backhand it on the warning track. Ruggiano will go to third. It's a double for Starlin Castro's got 3 hits tonight. And the Cubs now set up to really tack on big.
Slider backs up on Carlisle right into the swing path of Starlin Castro. As I mentioned, he's been looking to turn on something.
So that'll be it for Carlisle. A couple of lefties coming up. So it will be the southpaw Rice when we return.
He's not afraid to take the ball, depending on what Brad Ziegler did tonight with the Diamondbacks. Rice will tie him for the league lead in appearances. This is trip number 31 to the mound for Rice. His teammate Carlos Torres has been out there 30 times, 6 times in the last 7 days. Rice towing the slab here for the Metropolitans, albeit limited work for the most part. Most of his outings are a third of an inning, 2/3 of an inning. And 4 of his previous 5 outings, less than 10 pitches, 2/3 of an inning. And getting the loss in the ball game last night, gave up the hits to Rizzo and Schierholtz.
Infield in, and a strike on Nate. If he throws him another one, Nate will have him right where he wants him. 0-2.
Yeah.
He hooked one into the corner to win it last night.
Rizzo got him an 0-2, and so did Nate.
It's a sign from Recker. Big leg kick in the pitch. 1-1. We were talking with Ricky today before the ball game. He said, During that at bat, he was thinking, man, this would just be a perfect scenario if Nate could come through here. And sure enough, on the next pitch, he did. Really rough start to the season for Sherholtz, but he's starting to come out of it.
Nice and extreme ground ball pitcher. Everybody uptight on that Met infield.
1-2.
See, this is next level, right? We've now become accustomed to all the shifting in baseball. Infield in situations have been going on forever. But what about now? Would a manager be creative enough, willing, daring enough in a situation like this, in the 7th inning, down 1, to bring one of his outfielders into the infield, to treat it with a sense of urgency that you might in a tie game or down a run in the 9th inning?
Like pulling the goalie with 5 minutes to go.
If you have enough evidence to support it.
That one bounced out in front of the plate, and this time Rice wins the battle with Sherholtz. 2 outs in the inning.
You know, and the knee-jerk reaction is to say, well, Shea's has been sitting out there way too long tonight. He's losing his mind. Which a lot of baseball people probably would, but you know, the shifts we're seeing employed now, a couple of years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago, at least, people have said, what are these guys doing? Yeah. And with most teams being so good at closing you down in the 8th and 9th innings, you know, maybe it makes sense to at least think about it a little bit.
Or at the very least, and we've talked to managers and coaches about this, really bring your outfield, at least on the off pull side, in several steps.
Yeah,
you know, the point where if you make a catch in your general area, that runner from third is not going to score.
And you take away that little blooper. So you pull your infield in, and you created a bigger gap between the infielders and the outfielders.
A 1-0 to Coughlin. Now 2 balls, no strikes.
You know, what if you say you got a hitter up there who has ground ball tendencies, hits the ball on the ground, you know, 50% of the time, whatever, and you've got a pitcher out there like Rice who gets ground balls, you know, 60% of the time, you know, 4 ground balls for every fly ball. Maybe there's enough, you know, in the tendencies there to justify it. I don't think it'll happen.
3-0.
Before I did it at this level, I'd start to tinker with it in the minor leagues a little bit just to see.
You also need an outfielder who can play a little infield.
Yeah.
That's where a guy like Bonifacio really comes into play. Junior Lake played third. Made a play earlier this season. What was it, a 7-3 ground out? Bases loaded.
Let's count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 8 walks on my card issued by the Mets.
That's unofficial for you people scoring at home. Another pitching change. We'll be back. Bases loaded in the 7th. it's Mike Olt.
And Mike Olt was up there with the bases loaded last time, wasn't he?
He was.
Rizzo scored on the wild pitch. And then he grounded out. So another chance to do some damage here.
Fastball outside, ball one.
Love to do some damage against the Mets. Mike grew up back in Connecticut, New Englander. Family was mostly Yankee and Red Sox fans. Not at the same time. Some were Yankee fans, some were Red Sox fans. You can't be both.
Torres, a 15th rounder of the White Sox out of Kansas State, 2004.
Cutter.
Travis d'Arnaud also into the ballgame to catch as part of a double switch. Two and two.
Last 8 Cub batters to come to the plate. The ball's been put in play twice.
Last 9 Cub batters now, but they lead 5-4 as we head to the 8th. Brought to you by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. Ford, manufacturers of America's best-selling brand. Check out our best-selling lineup at your local Ford store or online at localfordstores.com. And by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. Beautiful shot of the city as we head back here to Wrigley Field. Luis Valbuena is part of a double switch, now playing third. And Pedro Strop back in a pretty familiar role here in the 8th inning with a lead.
Pedro activated over the weekend in Milwaukee, pitched once there, scoreless inning. His first action since May the 6th.
One and nothing on Tejada. Strop got an inning in Milwaukee and was pretty good. 10 pitches to get through that inning. Ground ball. Castro to Rizzo for the out. We'll bring up the catcher d'Arnaud for his first at bat. Just came into the game.
Last night it was Schlitter, Russell, Ramirez, Rondon with 4 1/3 of sparkling relief work. Tonight so far, Villanueva, excuse me, Wright, Russell, Grimm, and now Strop.
Would you say in this series the pen has been mightier than the sword?
Yes.
Definitely the kind of night you want to hold this lead and not even think about extra innings. Managers have used a lot of bullpen. Quick pitch, swing and a miss. And a good breaking ball.
Strop with plus stuff, and he's clever. Every now and then he'll drop this on you. A little sneak attack.
Matt Den Decker has reached once on a walk. 0 for 3 otherwise.
With a man on base, you have to come to a stop. Nobody on base, you do not. That allows him to do that. Little quick pitch.
Fly ball out in the deep left center. Ruggiano back, and he's got it right in front of the 368 marker. It sounded like trouble off the bat, but Ruggiano said no problem. Nicely done. He can play all 3 outfield spots. And that ends the Mets' 8th inning. is Justin Ruggiano. Look back and robbed Den Decker. Probably a two-base hit. And Torres continues on facing the catcher Baker. Curveball missed.
Yeah, Ruggiano's solidly entrenched in a 3-star selection. Maybe the number 2 star right now behind Castro.
Awkward swing by Baker, 1-1. Looking ahead to the 9th. Probably Hector Rondon, who's cranking it up in the bullpen. Won't be easy. Murphy, Wright, Randerson.
Yeah, a win is a win is a win. And was it that coined the phrase "win ugly"? Al Davis, somebody like that. Oh, Al Davis was just win, baby.
Smothered by Duda from a knee, and a good play by Torres to catch the ball and get his foot on the bag.
Yeah, tough handle there for Torres. That ball down around the knees when you're running over to cover first base. Many, if not most, are going to botch that play. That was a heck of a play.
The most aesthetically pleasing 3-1 put out.
It's kind of it suits the game, which has just been a yard sale. There have been looking at the walk strikeout totals, so 30 total plate appearances that have ended either a walk or a strikeout tonight.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a lot of non-activity.
Yeah, talked about that a lot as Valbuena bunts foul. We've had a few games like this already here in 2014, and there have been more around baseball. Less action, more time. And I don't think it's any one thing, JD. I think it's a combination of a lot of things.
Of the way the game is played with patience. You know, hitters.
We haven't had a replay tonight.
No. Well, there you go. That's coming next. With with hitters being more patient, working walks, and then you get power arms late. They're striking a lot of people out.
Missing bats. Each team in this matchup with an extra arm in the bullpen. So we've had more pitching changes.
Yeah, I saw a story today. I don't know if it was Scott Miller wrote it. Somebody pondering, is it time to expand the rosters? Thinking about what the Mets went through in Philadelphia with all those extra inning games. And the big downside to that for me would be even more of this, right? You give managers another arm out there in the bullpen to mix and match with, and if you're a manager, you're going to use it. That's your job is to win. Your job isn't to play fast games.
Here's a 1-2. Okay, so what about in tandem with expanding a roster, making a pitcher face multiple batters?
Yeah.
So you can't just do the lefty-righty matchup.
But a pitcher cannot be removed unless the previous batter reaches base.
There you go. Den Decker coming on, and he's got to play it on a bounce. Valbuena will make the turn. He'll hold with a base hit.
Looking for a little insurance here in the bottom of the 8th. Fastball down, but over the plate. Decker has a reputation of being a pretty good defender, but the guy that's normally out there, Lagares, is one of the best in the business, and he plays really shallow. So that's probably an out if Lagares is out there.
called strike. Well, we've always prided ourselves on it being the sport without a clock, but we also never had replay. We've done a lot of things in this game that a lot of people thought would never happen. And I think we are getting closer to that tipping point where you might see the 12-second clock for pitchers.
Yeah.
You know, with nobody
I
on
would
base.
endorse that. Yep.
And keeping the batter in the batter's box.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about it over the years.
You cannot ask players to police it themselves. They are not to blame. They're going to get away with and do whatever they can to make themselves comfortable.
Right, because it takes guys out of their comfort zone a little bit if they have to work at a quicker pace or step into the box maybe when they're used to stepping out and kind of collecting their thoughts.
See, now I like the 25-man active roster, and you can have a taxi squad. I have no problem with that. But I think expanding the roster too much will create even lengthier delays, more pitching changes, and more inaction. The 2-2. And he gets Bonifacio. Second strikeout for Torres. And it will bring up Ruggiano's had a heck of a night. 3 walks, a double, 2 runs, and the big catch. The one other thing is we don't legislate timeouts. In other sports, hockey, they get 1 timeout per 60 minutes, and then you get another one in overtime.
Yeah.
You get 3 each half in the NFL. If the catcher wants to go out and talk to the pitcher 12 times during a game, he can do so. I think we should start maybe keeping tabs on visits to the mound.
Infielders running in.
Now back. And the other kind of irony of our game is that in the NFL, you've got a playbook that, you know, hundreds of pages thick. They've got to learn. In baseball, you get like 3 or 4 signs, and guys forget them all the time. And they've got to go talk to the third base coach, or the catcher has to go over with the pitcher. Come on, guys. Is it that hard? The 0-2 off the plate. Big day tomorrow as the first 2 rounds of the draft will take place. Cubs have the number 4 overall pick. In the first round is Ruggiano swings and misses. We will go to the 9th. Rondon will try to preserve a 5-4 victory. Recently on the paternity list. The birth of his son Ian. He came back and pitched last night and got the win.
Yeah, how about that? W for Ian, 1-1 now with a 152 for Rondon. This is his primary responsibility. They'll hold leads, and that's his job now. He's got 6 saves and 7 tries. League hits a .198 against him. Not all saves are created equal. This one a little bit tougher. 1-run game. 2-3-4 due up for the Mets here in the top half of the 9th.
Well, the toughest save, I guess, would be bases loaded, nobody out with a 1-run lead. He gets to start the inning clean, but this is a tough part of this order, no doubt.
Yeah, to that end, Jake Arrieta he saved himself last night in the 3rd inning, because that's exactly the scenario. Bases loaded, nobody out, and he got out of it without a run scoring. Talk about the work the bullpen did. Jake kind of came in relief for himself in a sense. I was going to say he relieved himself in that inning, but that I don't think that.
Well, Jerry Colemanism. Threw up in the bullpen. Tapped foul by Murphy. Got a piece of the catcher Baker.
And they're still playing in Washington. 8-4. The Nationals lead the Phillies. They had a lengthy rain delay in that one. This Cub bullpen has been on quite a roll of late.
Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Up David Wright.
He doesn't strike out a whole lot.
Getting a little pushback on Twitter about length of game. It's not that the time of game that I'm talking about. It's the pacing and the inaction. If you go back and watch games from even 20 years ago, you just didn't have as much delay between actual things happening on the field, and I worry we're going to lose fans as a result.
Yeah, and I understand. I know there's great baseball fans don't want to hear us complain about slow games. We're sitting up here. We got this great job. I get that.
I love being at the ballpark. That's not it.
But I
want to see more baseball.
Yeah, I love this game. The game I grew up watching in the 70s. The average length of game was about 2.5 hours back then, and that wasn't a perfect game. I know that. And I'm not. I don't want to blow it up. I'm just saying that. There are nights like this when you think.
And baseball, it's been a goal of theirs to get things moving a little bit. We talked at the end of spring training. You talked to a baseball official who said we're going to try to cut several minutes.
Yeah, that's why if you come to a game
really
and you see the guys down by the dugout with those little colored cards that they hold up, they're kind of letting the umpires know. With 30 seconds to get rolling here.
Fans wanted it. Let's see. Yeah, Stop was outside. 2-2 on Wright. Fireballer coming back. Slider and Wright. Well, that's not an easy pitch to lay off, but he did.
No, he's a patient hitter. We've seen him rung up twice in this series on fastballs in the zone. Good pitchers' pitches, but both times they were good pitches.
A wind in the 3-2 fouled into the upper deck. Boy, I have really enjoyed watching the development of Hector Rondon. Buried at the back of the bullpen, not at the end of the game, but just kind of the last guy you would use last year. Swing and a miss. 2 down. And now he's become their most important arm out there.
Yeah, this is just a heck of a pickup by the Cubs front office. Rule 5 draft pick, a guy who at one time was among the top pitching prospects for the Indians, but he had some arm problems, set him back some. Cubs took him in that Rule 5 draft. Were willing to let him germinate out there in the bullpen last year, and you saw it start to pick up in September. Boy, he's been really, really good so far this year. And whereas a lot, especially on the Mets side, that bullpen has been a little bit tentative with their approach tonight. Nothing tentative about Rondon.
Strike called on Granderson.
Two-seamer down and away is the plan.
And a base hit. Granderson with a line shot single. That is his 5th hit of this series. And the Mets are still alive, and it's Bobby Abreu.
Not a bad pitch. Looked like he made the pitch he was trying to make, a two-seamer running away from Granderson, but he cut it off. See the target outside corner. It's on its way there, but Granderson gets out in front of it.
Abreu is still a tough out, as you see, with that .382 on base average. Nothing in one. The 0-1. A bouncer toward right. Picked up by Bonifacio. Boy, he created a great angle there. He knew he had time. He went into the outfield to make the play. Cubs win. Hector Rondon saves it for Edwin Jackson. How about that? Jackson got the win. The bullpen largely responsible for the Cubs winning the first 2 games of this series.
Yeah, great work by the bullpen both nights. 4 1/3 last night, 4 innings here tonight of scoreless baseball by the bullpen. 1-run win last night in dramatic fashion. Tonight, hanging on because of the good work by the bullpen to pick up their 2nd consecutive 1-run win.
Yeah, it might have felt a little more special for Rondon, too, from Venezuela. Got to believe he grew up watching Bobby Abreu as he gets him for the 3rd out.